Hi everyone, this is Christy with Aerybeth Sewing, and tonight, which is it's evening for me, I'm going to show you how to make this cute little peasant top. Now this is a little crop version, and then here's another one, and this will fit an 18-inch doll or fit a one probably, you know, the generic versions of those of the 18-inch dolls from Target or Walmart. But you can also make this longer for a dress, for a longer top. So I'm going to show you how to make that. Okay, so, and then in another video, I'll show you how to make the pants or the shorts version. Okay? Alright, so let's get started. Alright, so this fabric that I'm using is a fat quarter. And they're the ones that are folded up on those little cardboard pieces that you can get. Just different ones. I know Walmart has them for like 99 cents. And I cut out the sleeves out of one, and I cut out the dress part, because I'm going to make a dress instead of a top tonight, out of the other. Okay? So this is the sleeves. So we need two sleeves, and we need two dress parts. And then you're also going to need, elastic. One 11-inch piece and two 6-inch pieces. And you're going to need some straight pins and some scissors. And you might even need a little sewing marking tool, okay, chalk or something like that. All right, so when you cut out the sleeve, you're going to take your fabric and you're going to fold it over so you can have two pieces, and you're going to put your pattern piece on it, pin it on, cut it out. Same thing for your dress. Now, I'll show you on this because I've already used the other. Now, I'm going to upload in the next day or so the pattern piece. I won't have time to do it tonight, but I went ahead and drew out a pattern piece. So we're going to use the same pattern piece for the front and the back. Doll shapes are the same on both sides. And so we're going to put this on the fold. So what that means is we're going to fold this piece over, and we're going to put it right on the edge. See if you can see that. Right on the edge of that fold right there that we folded over. And you are not going to cut that fold. So you pin all the way around, and you're going to cut top, curve, down, and bottom. And you're going to do that again. You're going to fold it over and do it 2 times. So when you open it up, okay, here we go. Okay, so here's this piece. We cut it on the fold, and you open it up, and it should be this piece. And then you'll do it again, so you'll have 2 pieces. Okay? So you should have 2 bodice pieces and 2 sleeve pieces. Okay? Alright. So let's talk about what we're going to do first. Alright. So we have our pieces. We're going to put them together at the curves. Alright. So this is what you're going to do. Now, when you're first making this, I suggest, if you've never done this before and if you're a beginner, use 2 different color fabrics, especially if you're making a top, the little top, okay? Because the top and the sleeves, when you're making the little version, okay? So here's the regular shirt, and then if you fold it on the crop line, there's your little crop top, okay? And if you look at this, they kind of look very similar, especially once you open it up. So here's this piece up here. So if you make a shorter version, there's your bodice. Look at that. They look very similar. And so if you use 2 different ones, it'll be 2 different fabrics. It'll be good for your very first one, okay? Also, you can take your little marking pen and write sleeve, or on the back of this, you can write bodice, so you know what you're doing, so you don't confuse them if you do the same fabric for all. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to put this together only on the curves. So let's show you what this is. It's going to be, this is the curve right here. Okay, so the curves right here. So we're going to sew the curves of the sleeve to the bodice to the sleeve to the bodice. Okay, so here's our sleeve. Here's our sleeve, and here's our bodice. So it's going to go back and forth like that. we always sew with the right sides together. Okay, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to put my curves together right here. And I'm going to pin right here. Now you can draw a line with a pin. You're only going to go in about 3/8 inch in. Alright, so I'm going to pin right sides together. Sometimes if the fabric is the same on both sides, I'll write right side sleeve, right side bodice. Okay, so here's your first curve. Now I'm going to open that back up. Okay. Now I'm going to take this one. Okay, so look at that. See those three together. Now here's this piece. I'm going to put this curve right sides together. You see, because that wouldn't match right. You'd have to flip it that way, and then it's not right sides together. It would be wrong side to right side. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my presser foot on my sewing machine right on the edge of this fabric, and I'm going to back stitch, and I'm going to sew that curve, back stitch, and sew off. And then I'm going to do that one, and then I'm going to pull it over, make sure it's flat. I'm going to do that one, take out the pins, and then I'm going to pull it over here and do this last one. Okay, and then I want to finish my edges. So if it gets frayed or anything, I can trim it off, or if the edges aren't even, I can trim this off a little bit and zigzag the edge. So let's go to the sewing machine and do that real quick. Okay, I'm back over to my sewing machine, and I am on, let's see if you can see this, a length of a stitch of 1 with this straight stitch, and a length of a 3, and the little zigzag part is 3.5. That just means my needle's in the center. Okay, now I put my needle down, and I'm right on the edge and have a tiny bit right here on the edge just peeking out. So put my needle down, I'm going to back stitch, make sure I'm at the beginning, and then I'm just going to go around my curve. And the more you do it, sometimes you don't need the pins, cotton kind of stays together. I'm going to do this curve. Just go real slow around your curve. If you're not good at curves, you know, you can do it a couple of times in practice. And then always make sure your bobbin's in counterclockwise over the top, going that way. And I'm going to tuck it my top thread between the little presser foot and to the back. I always say these are feed dogs, so the doggy's tails go between his little legs to the back. Alright, so you should look like this. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to keep doing that. Alright, the next one at the top, back stitch. You know what? Press it up, cut off your threads, tuck it back under. Okay, next one. I'm just gonna put it under here, take out the first one, press it down. Alright, so here's all of our little pieces sewn together. Okay, so now I'm going to lay this out flat and trim off any fuzzy weirdness, or if they don't match up, but just a tiniest little bit, because we're going to go back and zigzag the edge. And each time I lay it down flat because I don't want to accidentally cut the shirt underneath. Just that little red sticking out just a little bit, because when I zigzag I want to make sure that I've got, you know, both pieces. The old way too, you can still do it at pinking shears, the little zigzag scissors, but I like to zigzag so that it's finished kind of like the inside of your shirt. If you look at the side seams, they're sewn together with a serger, so it makes it look really finished. All right, let's do our zigzag. All right, so on my machine, if you can see this over here, my machine, a number 4 is my regular zigzag. You could also use the overlock, which is like a 7, but I'm just going to go ahead and use the 4. Okay, I'm going to look up here. I'll show you all this. Alright, so I'm going to make this a 4. Now on whatever machine type that you have, you may have to just move your zigzag on the top of your machine or on the side. But I always change it to a 4.5. And so if you have a roller, you just change that roller. If it shows a zigzag in front of it, you change that to a 4.5. And then I make my little straight stitch in between, which would be your straight stitch on your dial or beside the zigzag stitch, a 1.8. Some machines have it where you only can choose small, medium, and large. So test your zigzag. Usually it's the large or next to the largest one. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to zigzag on the edge, but I am not going to go past my straight stitch line. Okay, so let's see if we can. Alright, so if you can see, there's a straight stitch line. Okay, so I'm going to do one on, one off, one on, one off, one on, one off, back and forth all the way up. But I don't want to touch my straight stitch line at all. So I'm just going to go one on, one off. Now I do back stitch sometimes, but it's not necessary really on this. One on, one off. And just don't go past your straight stitch. And if you happen to get too far off, you can pick it up and just bring it closer. You should barely be off the fabric, but literally off the fabric. Some people do it totally on. It'll keep it from raveling more, but this to me looks neater and cleaner. Alright, see if I can show you. So if you can see that. And I'll show you over on the other table as well. But it goes, kind of wraps around it. Alright. Let me keep doing the rest of these. And then I've got one more here. And you can start at the bottom of the curve or the top. It doesn't matter. See this little side part right here? And you can see the zigzag. It kind of wraps around that little edge and it will keep it from fraying. Alright, so now we're going to put our last piece together and make this total loop. So I'm going to sew this little curve, last curve together and trim and zigzag this. And then we got a big loop, loopy loop, okay? Alright, so again, frontwards, back stitch. This is that straight stitch. Always back stitch to the beginning and the end. And cut off all your threads. And this one looks pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and zigzag this. Again, I'm turning it to a stitch number 4 on my machine, but it's your regular it's your regular zigzag stitch. 4.5 and 1.8, one on, one off. And if you forget the back stitch, I didn't do it just then. Just remember, you're going to be sewing up those side seams. Move to the end, back stitch. Okay. Alright, so now we have this great little loop of fabric. Alright, so now we have all these. Look at this. And you can see it kind of looks like a dress now. Alright, so what we're going to do now, we're going to go ahead and hem the sleeves or get the casing ready and put the elastic in the sleeve. A little bit. And my elastic is 1/4 inch. Okay, so I'm going to fold this up just the tiniest little bit, and it's about 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to fold that up first, just the smallest amount. And once you get started, you can kind of eyeball it. Okay. And then I'm going to fold it up 1/2 inch. Now if you're doing long sleeves, it'll be further away from the underarm seam. So you could do actually long sleeves and extend it. Okay, so I'm going to fold this up 1/2 inch. There's your 1/2 inch, and you can put this little guide here at the bottom of the 1/2 inch. There's your 1/2 inch. And then you kind of look at it. Can that elastic go through there? It can. So I'm going to take my iron. You can steam it. This is cotton. It holds really well. And then I've done it for a while, so this pretty much, I got that. All right, and where we're going to sew, we're going to sew really close to that top edge. So I'm going to take my pins, and I'm thinking about the way I'm going to sew. I'm going to sew with the fabric on the outside of my machine. I don't want all this underneath my machine. So I'm going to pin either sideways or up and down. Put my pin in. I'm holding this with my hand. Put it in, and I bend the fabric back. So that's kind of where you're going to be sewing, real close to that edge right there. Okay, I'm going to flip over. Do the other side. Fold it up 1/4 inch. And you can test it out if you want to. It's pretty much the smallest amount you can fold up without burning your hand. And you give it a little steam. Alright, and then we're going to, it's hot, fold it up 1/2 inch. Going to test that out there. When we get finished, you can use your, eyeball it, but you can use your sewing gauge there to test it after you're done to make sure. Alright, so I'm going to put the pins back in it here. Just a couple here. Now, the sleeves, we're going to go sew those, but the cool part is, here's our neckline as well. You see our neckline? We're going to do the same thing. Okay, so I'm going to take this, I'm going to push the bottom part out of the way, and I want my seams, because I've got to put elastic in it, so I want these seams to go in the same direction, because I don't want to accidentally push it this way and my elastic's going in with the safety pin and then get here and not be able to get my elastic in. So whichever way you're going to do your seams, press them, do the same way all the way around. So there's that one going to my right, and I want this one going to my right. And that's important, or you'll be seam ripping. Alright, so I'm going to put this down. Now if they happen not to match up perfectly, at the same, just trim it, make a match. Alright, I'm 1/4 of an inch, and I'm going to go all the way around. Now if you notice, I did 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch. So you could do 3/4 of an inch and then tuck a little bit under, so you could do that too. So I'm going to steam it a little bit, make sure that's going. And this gets a little tricky as you turn it around. Just keep going 1/4 inch all the way around. And I like doing it all at once. See, the seam is going the same direction as the others, but you want to make sure it's not pulled way up high. You want to pull that out and make sure it's all flat. Just keep rotating it around, pushing the back under, because you don't want to accidentally iron what you already ironed. And seams going to the right. Yeah, I like doing it all at once, and that way I have all my ironing and my folding completed. Alright, so there's the 1/4 inch. Now for the 1/2 inch. And then you can test it and make sure elastic will fit. turning it around. Making sure that seam that it's still pointing to the right or the same direction you've been doing. You can pin as you go. If you have an ironing board, you can put this over the end of the ironing board, and that can get out of your way as well. And then you can pin as you go. If you're on something flat like what I'm doing, you can't pin as you go because all those pins are underneath, and you might iron over one. And some of these are plastic pins, and so you don't want them to melt. All right, I'm about all the way around. Alright, so now I would be sewing with the fabric on the outside of my machine. So I'm going to go back and pin this, because if you start sewing, it sometimes moves in this little casing where the elastic is going to be, gets smaller and smaller. And then you can double check all your seams to make sure they're still going in the same direction. I like putting one pin in each little section. If you're doing a little girl's shirt, peasant top, you make it exactly the same way. Different people do different stages. All right, look at that. Isn't that cute? Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to the sewing machine and we're going to sew at the bottom of this little casing on this and the sleeves. Now, if you notice, this is blue and red and white. So I'm using white so it'll be a contrast on the outside. But, I mean, if you really were tedious with it and wanted to, you could do blue on one side and then change it for red and blue. But it's not worth it unless you really, really want to change it. I think one of the colors, you could use red and then the red would show up on the blue. You could use blue and the blue would show up on the red. Any kind of thread is fine. It's your design. Alright, but also we need to leave an opening for the top because we need to be able to put the elastic in. So we're going to start at a seam, like one of the sleeves, and we're going to start probably around here and then leave about an inch opening. Now with the sleeves, we'll enter the elastic through the sides so we don't have to leave an opening. We can just sew straight through. Okay? Alright, so let's do the sleeves first. Alright. So I'm just going to move everything out of the way, and I'm going to sew really close. Make sure I'm going to stitch one for my straight stitch. And there's, on the electric machines, there's stitches, straight stitch with it on the left, and then if you look at it, there's some in the center. I like the center because I can see on both sides of my needle, and I like that better. Alright, so I'm going to put my needle down, I'm going to go forward, I'm going to go back, take out my pin, I'm going to sew very close to this little edge right here. If you sew over on the right hand side, it'll be floppy. So you want to sew on the outside edge. And real close so you can get that safety pin in with your elastic. Under to the back. Let's do our other sleeve. Cut off some of these threads as I go. Alright. Forward, back. Alright, now I'm going to do my neckline. Alright, so I'm going to start, there's my seam, I'm going to start on the red in front of it. Frontwards, backwards. And this is how you would do a casing also for like a pair of pants, pajama pants. I'm I'm just going to sew all the way around. Alright. I'm back around, and I'm not going to overlap. I'm going to stop about right there. Alright, and then I'm going to back stitch just once. Now there's an opening right there, and once we get finished putting the elastic in, we'll go back and sew from that point to close it up. Now we're back over here, and here's our opening for our neckline. Alright, so we are going to, I put elastic in both ends, so in case I lose it, I'm going to put my safety pin in. And I'm going to hold the back and squish the fabric onto the safety pin. And as I'm squishing, okay, there's the end of the safety pin. I'm just going to pull the fabric only. Now I'm going to hold the back again, squish it on. And see, there's our seam going that direction. Now I'm going to pull the fabric only. Hold the back, squish it on, pull the fabric. So you're just going to keep doing that. Now when it gets to the end over here, I safety pin these, and you can do it at the beginning as well, onto the fabric so I don't lose the elastic inside the casing, because you know the elastic's smaller than the casing because it's going to gather up. So I just keep pushing it on, pulling the fabric, pushing it on, pulling the fabric. And it may get real tight like right here, so I just pull the whole thing. And then when you get back around, you come out, and you try to keep it as flat as possible so it doesn't get twisted in there. And where it comes out right here, and then here's this one right here. You don't want to take it all the way off yet. I grab both safety pins with the elastic going in the same direction and just kind of squish it. Now I can take the safety pins off and have those right there. Now, if you were doing pants for yourself, you'll have bigger elastic, and you can put them on top of each other and pin that and sew across. But with doll clothes, you can just lay those on top of each other, and then I'm going to sew back and forth across that. But for now, I'm going to put a pin in that, okay, and now I'm going to do the sleeves. I have my 6-inch pieces. You could actually cut them down to 5, but I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm going to put this in here. Okay. Now it's just a straight shot, so it's a little bit easier. So I'm going to put this through here. Now as I put it through there, you see the elastic's getting right there. And you could put a safety pin on the end of it as well. Getting curled up. Okay. So once I have it partway through there with the elastic right at that end right there, okay, I'm going to sew that and tack it down already. Okay, so I'm going to put a pin right here, and I'll tack that down, and then I'm going to keep going the rest of the way through this. And then you make sure it's flat. You can pull it out a little bit if you want to. I'm thinking I'm going to cut off just a little bit, about 1/2 inch, because the last time I did it, it seemed a little bit big. Okay, so now I've got that one. Okay, now I'm going to do the other one. I'm going to cut off the same amount on this one, about 1/2 inch. And that way you've got all 3 things done at one time. Or you could do them one at a time if you feel like it's a little overwhelming. Okay, so the elastic's right there. Pin right here. And finish going through here. Make sure it's flat and not twisted. Alright, let's go over to the sewing machine and sew those down. Okay, So now I'm going to take the sleeves, tuck that under. I'm still on a straight stitch, and I'm going to put that underneath there where I pinned it on the sleeve, and I'm just going to tack it down for now. Go back and forth, okay? Cut off the threads, tuck it back under, and take out that first pin. Okay, so that's tacked down. It's not going anywhere. The second one, I'm going to do the same thing over here. Go ahead and take that pin out. Go back and forth a few times, cut it off, and that's tacked down. Okay? Alright, now the other. And now the neckline, take those, and put your two ends together, and I'm just going to sew I have maybe an inch down. Okay, and then I'm going to take, here is your neckline, so we're going to straighten that out and tuck that little piece in. Okay, now I'm going to go back over that part and sew that in. So I'm going to tuck that under, and I'll go ahead and set it up. Go into one of those stitches you were already in. I'm going to go back stitch and go forward. Alright, and now make sure you're not sewing over any other part, and then I'm just going to go to the part we left open and back stitch, and then take it out. Now, alright, so there's our sleeve with lots of threads. Alright, so we're going to put these blue seams together. Right there. And then you put our sleeves together. And we are going to sew that right there, all the way down. So I'm going to put this down here, and just going to put that in there for now. You can do this over at the table. I'm going to take this and I'm going to put a pin right there, matching those seams up. I have one seam going down and one seam going up, just so it won't be so bulky. Okay, and then I'm going to sew right on the edge of that, forward, back stitch, keeping your fabric together, a little bit hanging off over the side. I'm going to turn over the other side. I'm going to match those seams up. Right there, those blue seams, right together. One seam going down, one going up. Either way, it doesn't matter. Put a pin in that, making sure the bottoms of your sleeve are lined up. Then I'm going to pull this down. I'm going to back stitch, keeping your edges of your fabric together. Okay. Alright, so now we're going to zigzag the edge. Up to on the zigzag. This makes it where it will not fray for you. And then flip it over. I'm going to do the other side. One on, one off. Don't touch your straight stitch. Alright, let me show you. Fold this up, and I'm going to make it easier on myself. I'm going to do a 1/2 inch hem. I just folded the whole thing up a little bit and just work your way back down with it. By this time we've been messing with it so much, that may be more like an inch. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, that's an inch. That'll work. We've been working with it so much that it's fraying, but that's okay. We're not going to be able to see that in a minute. Alright, so I've got an inch hem, so I'm going to go back and then just tuck it under like that. Now there's one side. Now I'll flip it over. I'm going to tuck in the other side. And you should end up with about a 1/2 inch hem. And then turn it to the side and make sure you tuck those little edges in as well. Alright. I'm going to pin that little edge there. And then make sure I iron that little part and pin that there. And then you got your hem in this. So we're going to go all the way around the bottom of this now. Isn't that sweet? In another video, I'm going to make a matching pair of shorts. And you can also put a bow in the middle of this as well. Let's put it on her. Okay, look at her. I'm going to pull this up so you can see it a little bit. There's her little top. I always like doing a little bit extra, like putting the little ribbon sash on or ribbon at the bottom. See this one right here, I put ribbon at the bottom. So this is grosgrain ribbon, and you just have to really stitch right at the top. And I put it right on the bottom of the hemline. Tying a little bow, putting it in the middle of the top, and just sewing across it. Here's this one. There's a little bow at the top and lace at the bottom. You hear my doorbell going off. Alright, she's done. Thank you for watching, and let me know if you have questions. Good night.